Did Stevie Nicks once drive the whole of Fleetwood Mac crazy just because of her love affairs? Her wild nights with bandmates, songwriters, and even her best friend's lover led to an unwanted abortion. Then came the cocaine use on private jets. The body destroyed by drugs and endless partying that almost made her go blind. This is the insane love life of Stevie Nicks and the dark secrets that have never been revealed. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Grab yourself a warm drink, maybe a cup of tea, or just water, and sit back as we begin this journey together. Stevie Nicks was born on May 26th, 1,948 inches, Phoenix, Arizona, but spent most of her childhood in California, where the sunshine and ocean breezes seemed to provide endless inspiration. As a young girl, Stevie was drawn to music early on. It all started when she attended Arcadia High School in California, where she joined her first band, Changing Times, a folk rock band that focused on vocal harmony. Stevie met Lindsey Buckingham during her senior year of high school when Lindsey was performing California Dreaming at a school jam session, and Stevie didn't hesitate to join. The two immediately found a connection not only in music, but also in spirit, which was the beginning of a great creative collaboration with strong emotional and sexual elements. Lindsey quickly invited Stevie to join his band Fritz, a psychedelic rock group heavily influenced by Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. Although Stevie tried to go to college, she dropped out to plunge into the exciting world of rock and roll. She dreamed of success and the wild, free life of a rock star. But real life was not so simple. Stevie and Lindsey's debut album, Buckingham Nicks, released in 1973, was a milestone in their career. However, despite its sexy cover and notable tracks, the album was not as successful as expected. This failure put Stevie and Lindsey in a difficult period. Stevie began taking odd jobs to make ends meet, while Lindsey, due to work, left her to tour with another band. Feeling lonely and depressed, Stevie turned to drugs to forget her sadness and wrote one of her most famous songs, Rhiannon. This song would later become one of Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac's signature songs, with its haunting melody and emotional lyrics. Despite her troubled personal life, Stevie remained steadfast in her dream of becoming a rock star. However, it was during these times of suffering that she found strong inspiration to compose and express her emotions through music. In 1975, Fleetwood Mac drummer Mick Fleetwood invited Lindsey to join his band as a guitarist. However, Lindsey only agreed to join if Stevie was also accepted into the band. This was a major turning point in Stevie Nicks' career when she officially joined Fleetwood Mac, opening a new phase in her life and career. Together with Lindsey, Stevie brought a new wave of creativity to Fleetwood Mac, and the combination of them created a unique musical style combining rock, pop, and folk melodies. However, a career in Fleetwood Mac was not easy. Besides being a member of a band that was gradually becoming famous, Stevie also faced challenges in her relationship with Lindsey. Although they always tried to maintain their relationship, the tension in their relationship began to affect their work. Their relationship became more and more complicated. However, more trouble awaited them as Fleetwood Mac began to gain popularity. Stevie and Lindsey tried to renew their commitment to each other, but things did not go well. However, instead of sitting down and having a mature conversation, they decided to ignore their feelings and focus on work. This strategy backfired. Lindsey began to sneak his feelings about Stevie into his lyrics. In Go Your Own Way, he made it clear that all Stevie wanted to do was live with other men, which angered Stevie. By 1976, after years of trying to maintain their relationship, Stevie and Lindsey officially broke up. However, in order to protect Fleetwood Mac's career, they decided to continue working together. Maintaining professionalism at work helped the band not be too affected by the breakup of the two. However, tensions were inevitable when the two had to work together in a complicated atmosphere. While Fleetwood Mac was recording their second album, Rumours, Stevie and Mick Fleetwood, the band's drummer, began a romantic relationship. This relationship, although passionate but flawed, sent shockwaves through the music community when Mick remarried his ex-wife Jenny Boyd shortly after Stevie and Lindsey split. Neither Stevie nor Mick understood why this was happening, but they decided to end the relationship for the sake of the band. If they continued, it would be the end of Fleetwood Mac. This shows the complexities of the personal lives of the members of Fleetwood Mac, as well as the difficulty of dealing with unforeseen situations. The triangle between Stevie, Lindsey and Mick eventually settled down, but the problems between the three continued. 50 years later, the tension between them finally exploded. Stevie had tried to expand her romantic relationships before. One of the most notable relationships in Stevie Nicks' life was with Don Henley, the frontman of the band Eagles. This relationship lasted for a while, but had major problems. When Stevie fell in love with Don Henley, she was also caught up in a lavish lifestyle and endless partying. With the Eagles, Stevie lived in a world of private jets, all-night parties, and drugs. Not only did that break up their relationship, but it also caused Stevie Nicks to face many difficulties in her personal life. Stevie revealed that during her time with Don Henley, she became pregnant, but decided to have an abortion because she could not imagine raising a child in a chaotic and dangerous world. This was a big decision for her, and also an important turning point in her life. After breaking up with Don Henley, Stevie Nicks began a relationship with Jimmy Iovine in the late 1970 and early 1980 when I was a music producer, and Nicks was one of the prominent stars of Fleetwood Mac. They met when I was working at the record label and began collaborating on the production of Stevie Nicks' album Belladonna, released in 1981. Their relationship was not only professional but also a bit romantic during this period. The two spent time together when Stevie was searching for new music, and I helped her develop her personal style, creating hit songs. But their relationship did not last long and led to a breakup. Stevie Nicks continued to experience challenges in her personal life. One of the greatest tragedies in her life was the death of her close friend, Robin Anderson, who died of leukemia. Stevie had become the godmother of Robin's son, and her friend's death left her feeling helpless and in great pain. In her grief, Stevie decided to marry Kim Anderson, Robin's widow-rower, in the naive hope that marriage would help them overcome their grief. However, the marriage quickly fell apart due to a lack of true love. The marriages and relationships during this period were all unsuccessful and were associated with Stevie Nicks' suffering, loss, and feelings of helplessness. But one thing is for sure, Stevie has always been a good companion to Robin's son, continuing to help him complete his education while always maintaining a close bond with his late friend's family. One of the next notable relationships in Stevie's life was with Joe Walsh, guitarist of the Eagles. Their relationship lasted 3 years, and Stevie once described it as the greatest love of her life. Their relationship was one filled with passion and endless partying, but also fraught with the dangers of drug abuse. Ultimately, it was the drugs that ruined the relationship. Stevie and Joe Walsh broke up, but they still had a special respect and affection for each other. Despite many personal challenges and a tragic relationship, Stevie Nicks continued to maintain a brilliant music career. She released several successful solo albums, including the timeless hit Edge of 17. However, the crazy years of the rock and roll era with drugs and sex were gradually behind Stevie. Although she no longer participated in this lifestyle, its effects still haunted her throughout her life. In addition, Stevie Nicks also faced some difficulties in her relationship with the members of Fleetwood Mac, especially Lindsey Buckingham. In 2018, Buckingham was kicked out of Fleetwood Mac, causing the relationship between him and Stevie to become even more strained. Buckingham blamed Stevie for his departure, but Stevie argued that she only wanted a break from the band because the working environment at Fleetwood Mac had become toxic. However, their problems cannot overshadow Stevie Nicks' career and her great contributions to rock music. Stevie Nicks is an indispensable musical icon in the history of rock. However, her life and career were also full of challenges, complicated relationships, and difficult decisions. She's not only a singer with great songs, but also a strong woman who bravely faced pain, failure, and loss. Stevie Nicks has proven that despite life suffering and challenges, she can still stand strong and continue to contribute to music and fans around the world. By mid-2007, Stevie Nicks was living in Paradise Valley, Arizona, a quiet suburb of Phoenix. She had built the house in 1981, and she lived there with her brother Christopher Nicks, his wife Lori Perry Nicks, their daughter Jessica, and her niece. Although the house held many memories and was a place of peace for her, Stevie Nicks decided to sell it in mid-2007, citing a desire to downsize and devote more time to charitable activities. She shared that she had only spent about 2 weeks in the house the previous year, in part due to her busy schedule and non-stop music projects. After announcing the sale, she let it go for $3 million, despite originally listing it for $3.8 million. However, even though she has moved away from Paradise Valley, Stevie Nicks has no shortage of warm and private living spaces. She now owns a beach house in Santa Monica, California, where she can find peace after long tours and non-stop performances around the world. Stevie Nicks' life transition not only reflects a change in her living choices, but is also part of her process of finding a balance between her music career and her philanthropic activities. Throughout her career, Stevie has always tried to balance her passions for music, her illustrious solo career, and her commitment to the community. Therefore, her new home in Santa Monica is not only a place to rest, but also a space for her to continue pursuing personal projects and community activities. Stevie Nicks' current life remains mysterious and fascinating, combining the fame of a music star with a woman devoted to charity work. Despite the ups and downs in her career and life, Stevie has always been a model of resilience and undying passion for music. Her beach house, like her life, is as beautiful as the gentle melodies she has dedicated to the world for decades.